The Wood Memorial is a 100-point Derby prep run out of Aqueduct on Saturday. It's a grade one. It's at a mile and an eighth for 3-year-olds, and it's the 10th race on the Saturday card. And we look at this field, we see a lot of repeat performers from the Withers and the Gotham, most notably El Grande Deterministic, who won the Gotham and has got a fair amount of attention. We've got Merit and Tuscan Sky, a couple who have peeped in now and again. Elysian Meadows and Resilience are the Bill Mott, kind of like he did last year with Shadow Dragon and Rocket Can. Society Man, who we saw in the Withers, Uncle Heavy, who won the Withers, Death Position, and Gettysburg Address, who's now under the care of Dallas Stewart, formerly from Brad Cox, and Tuscan Sky, a Todd Pletcher, who's had a bit of attention as well. So there's a lot of horses we've seen before, a couple of new ones, and it's a big field, which always makes for a pretty interesting race. And we take a look at them one at a time. El Grande, he is kind of doing the same thing that Arctic Arrogance did last year for Linda Rice. Basically just led all the races and just can't quite get to the end. But I will say this about El Grande he is improving every race, and his fractions are getting better. Now, probably a one-turn mile, the Gotham, the last one, was an ideal situation for him. And really, that's what kind of sours me a little bit on him, is just the fact that that was about as good a scenario as he could get, and he still couldn't win the race. However, of the front runners, he's clearly the one that will be the pace, I think, and his fractions alone keep him in this race, and he is improving. So stranger things have happened, but it's likely, I think, he'll try to lead them all the way around in a merry chase, and he'll probably end up second or third, and that's just the way it's been going for El Grande So I think he's a horse you can use, but hopefully the price won't be too short, and I would only consider him really more for underneath than anything else. Evening News is coming from Turfway, so immediately I get, that's something that I pay attention to, so the synthetic to dirt angle. But you will note with Evening News, it has run on dirt before, not very successfully, and the last couple have been pretty good, but it's not at the same class level as here, and I don't know, I just... I certainly think this one might pop and run pretty well, which would only mean bad news for El Grande because I just don't think this one can take them all the way around the track. So I'm going to let go. Resilience is one of the Bill Motts, and this one what a resume. I mean, her back class for maidens, she ran against everybody. A lot of very prominent 3-year-olds. And finally broke his maiden, and then they put him in the Risen Star, and I thought he ran a good race. Moving into stakes company, I thought he acquitted himself well. This one has shown that he has quality, and now with a little bit of a freshening and a stakes race under the belt as well as 2 turns, I think that this one is logical to factor in this race. Kind of reminds me of Rocket Can. It's kind of the same MO, the same pattern. And so I think Resilience is one that, if he can take a move forward, setting just off the pace, stranger things have happened. This race, last year we had a wild one with a wild long shot, and I don't think Resilience will be at big odds, but you're going to get decent value, and who knows? So I think Resilience is one you certainly have to pay attention to and use. Lonesome Boy has been pretty good. I mean, has a lot of starts and seems to be running at his best, but note all of his wins came on off tracks. And that kind of, to me, you have to downgrade a little bit. I wouldn't talk you out of it if you want to kind of throw him in the mix to get underneath, but the price will have to be right, but I don't consider him to be a valid win candidate. Deterministic has pulled a daily double that is pretty impressive. Won a maiden at Saratoga in impressive fashion. Took 200 days off. Debuts in a stakes race at 3 years old, and he wins that. That's pretty good, and that's a hell of a lot of talent, a lot of quality. This horse certainly has a ton of potential for Christophe Clement. Going around 2 turns for the first time, I don't think that's going to be a problem for this one. He's faced a lot of these in the Gotham and had no problem with them, and I think he does have a couple in here that may give him a bit of a challenge, but you certainly have to like the progression that he's made in a very short amount of time. So Deterministic, to me, probably the one to beat here. It just looks like all systems are go. Protective, once again, we're going to say this every week, I guess, every single Derby prep. Mike Rapoli, Todd Pletcher, emptying the cabinet, throw everything against the wall, see what sticks. This one has, has shown flashes here and there, but I'm just, I just think this is a desperation move to get as many horses into the Derby as he can. And this one just doesn't. I don't see it. And you're going to get a short price, and I don't want any part of him for that reason. Merritt started off his career pretty well, but the problem is, as the distances are getting longer, the speed figures are diminishing. And he really hasn't shown any signs of improvement. And in actual fact, it looks like the longer the distance, the less he likes it, especially being by mastery. So I don't want any part of Merritt here. Elysian Meadows is another Bill Mott, and he didn't run too bad the last time. Got fourth, but I don't see the upside quite as much as I do with Resilience. If you want to use him, you're going to get Bill Mott at value, and like I said, this one didn't run too bad. I just kind of like Resilience a little better. That's really my only thinking there. But again, this is there's a lot of eligible candidates to get underneath for your trifecta and your superfecta. So check the tote board, and if you do get some decent odds, I could see Elysian Meadows being used for that purpose for sure. Tuscan Sky appears to have quality, but really kind of hard to gauge in that last race. It was a 3-horse race, and he beat Nash, who we all know was a pretty good disappointment. Did come back and win an allowance race at Oaklawn pretty handily. So that does speak well to Tuscan Sky. I didn't like the end fraction of that race, but in a 3-horse race, you sort of have to go all out a little bit more. You don't get any breathers like you might get in a 2-turn effort at the Wood Memorial. This one certainly has talent. It seems a little quick to me to get this one into the Wood Memorial. That's into a graded stakes race. Certainly, we've seen this also with Todd Pletcher. His record has not been the greatest doing this, moving them into graded stakes, but this one does appear to have some talent, and in this field would certainly be one logically to consider, and I think you sort of have to use. Now, when we get into the later runners here, I don't know how much pace there's going to be in this race, but there are a lot of horses who want to be up and near it, so perhaps it'll be a little faster than I'm thinking with El Grande because of all the pressure he's getting. So let's take a look. We pay attention to late runners a little bit more for that purpose. Deposition just has no early speed. He's a very one-paced runner, and the one thing with him, though, is the longer the better. And so going back to a 1 1/8 where he ran an okay Withers, I think maybe is a good thing for this horse. You're going to get a nice price, and I think he'll just keep running. So it's very possible at odds to get underneath for the try of the Super. Gettysburg Address just hasn't gotten any better. Now, Dallas Stewart has him now, and we know Dallas Stewart can throw in a long shot here and there, but this one really just has not shown any progression at all. And if Brad Cox couldn't get it out of him, I find it hard to believe that Dallas Stewart will get it out of him right now. So he looms a wise guy horse to me, so it means the odds will be prohibitive. So I'm just not going to even bother with him. I'm not going to use him. Society Man is just didn't do any running in the withers at all, but the last race broke the maiden and did so pretty well. So maybe that was a tightener, a lesson learner, and looms like one that probably with the distance could run a little better. I don't think is good enough to win against this group, but underneath for the try of the super, sure, why not? Uncle Heavy is the winner of the Withers, and hasn't done anything wrong. I'll say that. I mean, he's just getting. He's been progressing pretty well, but he didn't have to deal with Deterministic. He didn't have to deal with Resilience, and he didn't have to deal with Tuscan Sky. Those three alone, I think, are classier than Uncle Heavy, and so I think he's more a candidate for underneath. I also don't think necessarily he will have the pace scenario that he would need to put in a big effort here, and he's in the 13 hole. So there's a lot of things working against Uncle Heavy. I don't think he's a bad horse. I just think he's more consigned to underneath because he's facing some classier horses with a little more upside. So if we look at our wagering strategy, I think the value play is Resilience, number one. I don't think he'll be a really big price, but I think he'll be a decent one. And in this field, to me, with his back class and Bill Mott training him, he was one that could very logically make a move forward and be dangerous in this spot. So to me, across the board with Resilience as the value play, I would certainly want to have 6-1, something like that, anywhere but 9-2 or better, let's call it, if I'm going to make that play. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. But he is one you want to keep in the mix. Deterministic, to me, is the one to beat. So we're going to go a key box with 4 on top with 1, 2, and 9. And then we'll box 1 and 4 together for the value so we can go for our double up there. You'll notice, I mean, I may use 1 or 2 extra horses sometimes, but for my primaries. But in this race, I think you can go drive yourself crazy trying to find. There's a lot of possible horses you can use just for odds. So I'll leave that up to you. I would be thinking that way going into that race. Watch the tote board and to look for some value for underneath. But what I'm going to do with the trifecta, I'm going to take Deterministic on top, and then I'll use 1, 2, and 9 in second. And then I'll use the late runners with 1, 2, and 9, 11, 12, and 13. And, just as kind of a crazy trifecta, because this race does have the potential to breed some really big odds getting in underneath in the exotics. I think the win candidates are pretty straightforward. And to me, Deterministic is the one to beat.